I'm going to walk a mile with JJ Voss today. Hey JJ, how you doing?
Good, Joe. How are things out your way?
Well, we're doing pretty well, thank you. Thanks a lot for making the time to do this with me.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so I'm going to maybe go back a little bit. You had a busy schedule lined up when the pandemic hit.
Yeah, we had an album, a new album in the can and ready to go, and I think we had something like 46 or 47 tour dates booked to, roll the album out the door the best we could, and then that all evaporated.
So what did you do? How did you handle
Well, I lost my mind for a few days,
that? I
of
think
course.
I think pretty much every working musician kind of went through that.
Yeah, like everybody in the world, and that's what I kept, trying to tell myself. Things that I was faced with was horrible, but I thought, you know what, the entire world is going through this, and I'm not more special than anybody else. So I tried to keep telling myself that to try to calm my nerves. But basically, after a few days after the shock wore off, it was one of those situations that you got to swim. You got to either that or you sink. So we had to market this record one way or another, and we did everything that we could to. We jumped online, and the streaming thing became, my CD release party was on a Friday night, and we did our first live stream that day, just setting up a cell phone and singing the songs and hope that people would show up and watch.
Yeah, and what kind of response did you get?
It was it was fantastic. Actually, I forget the numbers, but I think we did over 10,000 views on.
Wow.
You know what? I shouldn't even quote that. I have no idea. All I know is that the lady that I had working for me as a marketer, she compared that against some other numbers, against some of the big artists,
Yep.
and of course it was so new that we were actually batting way above our weight as far as the traction that live stream gained, and we got in front of a lot of eyeballs.
That's cool. So that was Come Along With Me, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what song do you think caught people's attention?
On that album, I think, well, Some People was probably the most. That was probably the most listened to song off that record.
That's a great song.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
Come Along With Me seemed to strike a chord as well. It's kind of a very up song, and kind of an uplifting feel to it, and it kind of gets people out of their chairs. And I think between songs, probably.
yeah. So listen, you need to tell me, how does a country kid like you get to do a tour of Europe? How does that happen?
Well, out of sheer me being stubborn, I think is what it is.
Did you learn that on the
Uh,
farm?
Pardon me?
Did you learn that on the farm?
Oh, definitely, most definitely. It was you always, batted above your weight, and you always did what you weren't, probably weren't supposed to because you had to. But
Yeah.
no, I always wanted to see Europe. I guess for one, because I'm a history buff, and as far as my music goes, it was my dream to go over there and play my music in a continent like that. So I didn't I didn't go to play any music festivals. I didn't have any industry support. I just got on the phone and sent emails, a lot of cold calling and a lot of unreturned emails. But I managed to just reach out to some people and kind of talk them into bringing me over.
Yeah.
I shouldn't. It wasn't all on my own. I did have I had a friend here who was born in Germany, and who had some family and friends, and has maintained relationships in Germany. So he gave me the introduction to some of the people,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I just did hard, rolled up my sleeves and made it happen.
You made it, and that was pretty much solo, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The first trip, I believe, I played something like 8 or 9 shows, and then the second time I went back, it was 17 or 18 shows, and I went back. What was it, 2016 and 2017, I believe.
Yeah. So what did you feel? How did you feel about Germany's audiences? How did they respond?
awesome. Like I didn't know what to expect, and I still don't know if I wrapped my head around it completely. But like when you're in a foreign country and listening to music in a different language, I don't know what the. I guess if I listen to French music, I don't really connect with it, or if I
Right.
listen to like music of a different language, because I pay attention to lyrics. The lyrics is very important to for me in a listening experience. So I didn't know what people would get from it because my music is lyric based. It's not high energy. Um, I can see other forms, other genres of music, just the sing along, clap your hands, jump up, that type of thing. I can see how that connects, but I wasn't sure how mine would, and believe it or not, it still worked.
Yeah. Yeah. It is kind of strange to think of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
but
yeah, go ahead.
I guess most of the areas that I played, people in Germany speak English very well,
Right.
so they
Right.
were understanding the lyrics. There was a couple towns that I went to where they were smaller towns and they're older, and the crowd didn't speak a lot of English, but people's attention span still seemed to be there. They connected and they listened.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was quite shocked and surprised.
So would you say that you leaned on your sort of countryside or your roots side when you were there?
I don't know. I kind of play my songs. I play what I play, and I don't really lean towards genres, or I don't. When I sit down to a set list, I don't think, well, I need a, a rock song or a country song. I just kind of play what I play. And I guess maybe I'm not. When it comes to categorizing different genres, I try to avoid that.
I don't blame you. Let somebody else
I
do
don't
that.
care. I guess I just don't care what genre it is. To me, there's good music or there's not so good music.
Yeah, yeah. Well, particularly in this day and age, right? It used to be that, the genre sort of told people where they could look for your records if they're going to a record store, but that's not the case now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So having said that, I mean, I think it's clear you started off pretty clearly in the country lane, right? Is that fair to say?
I guess so. I mean, I think that's mainly because Canada really all we have is a commercial country radio.
Yeah, yeah,
Or I should qualify that. All my connections and kind of my as I was coming up in the industry, that's where my connections were. And my music, I don't know, it's never really fit in as a mainstream country. It got some airplay on mainstream country radio, which I'm very grateful for, but it was always a little bit left of that. And but I'm grateful for the exposure for the airplay that I got on it. But I don't know. I don't think I've ever really had a home as far as a genre goes.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that speaks to your artistry.
Well, I appreciate that. To me, it's a little bit frustrating when it comes to the industry side of things because industry folks, it makes it easier. It makes it easier to sell a product when they know what to call the product and when it fits neatly inside a box.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So listen, I'd like to talk to you about your most recent single, Letter to Dad.
Hmm.
Yeah, tell me about that song.
Well, it was this year. We're kind of on the tail end of the. It marks the 100th anniversary of the farm that I grew up on, an hour north of Regina, north of the town of Cupar. And kind of the year before, in 2021, I was out at my farm. I guess to qualify it, my dad passed away 10 years ago, and after he passed, we rented the land out to our neighbors, and they're farming the land now, and we keep the yard and the house as kind of our getaway. It's kind of like our cabin as a family,
Yep,
and it's a very special place for me because it'll always be home,
yeah,
and I love to go out there and escape and go and spend time, and that's kind of my happy place.
yeah,
And so in 2021, I was out there contemplating, thinking, we're getting on 100 years, and after Dad passed away, most families typically will put the land up for sale, or there'll be an auction sale and that type of thing. And we're not in such a hurry to do that at this point. We kind of like having it, and as long as we're able to pay the bills and keep things going with the revenue that we get from the rent, we're able to maintain our home and kind of keep my dad's dream alive.
Yeah, yeah,
And so in 2021, I was thinking about all those things, and I went for a walk out there, and I was having a conversation with my dad because I do that pretty often, and I wound up writing it down, and it turned into a song.
yeah. Well, it's a great song. It's pretty uncommon to listen to a song once and go, "Wow, that's a great song." But I have to say that's exactly how I felt. To the extent that I shared it with my nephew. He's an emerging musician, and his father, my brother, had our family farm, and they still have it. His brother actually technically owns it, but they share that property. And so your story in that song, just spoke directly to their story as well. So I sent it to him, and his response was very simple. Jesus, it really touched him.
I appreciate that. I think generational change and the legacy isn't necessarily specific to farming either. Because I've got reports from people who said, my dad or my family ran the butcher shop, and
right.
It was his dream for me to take it over and continue on. And it's the small mom and pop businesses have become a thing of the past. So it makes it really, really hard as a small operator to carry on the legacy of your parents, because the world has changed quite a bit. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't still mean a lot, and it doesn't mean that we don't want to.
Right. For sure. Couldn't agree with you more on that. So what are you writing now? You must be developing some new material.
I've got I keep kind of a digital notepad in my phone, and over the course of the last few years, I've got this slew of different ideas and different phrases and different song ideas. But to be the honest truth in it is, I'm so busy right now trying to catch up for that downtime that we had during the pandemic. Right now, I'm probably as busy as I've ever been with live shows.
Yep.
And this is how I make a living. I don't really have another income source, so I'm really focused on keeping my calendar full and playing shows and trying to reach as many people as I can. I think right now the most important thing I can do is to keep growing my fan base and to keep expanding. I do it on a very grassroots level. So this winter, my plan is to shut down for a couple of months and really dig in and try to revisit all these ideas and get a new record happening.
Yep.
But a person has to kind of balance what they want and what you need, and kind of at the time now, I kind of need to catch up.
Well, I mean, and really, you probably still can be supporting Come Along With Me, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm getting to places that I'm still going to new places that I haven't been before, and without major radio support or major media support, there's still a lot of people in my home market that may have heard my name, but they haven't heard my material. So I think it's still rewarding, and I'm still gaining followers as I play my events. I'm not playing great big events. I'm not playing major festivals. I'm playing mostly community events, which suits me just fine, because it's a grassroots approach, and the people that like my style of music, I guess, enjoy that type of medium as well.
Well, you're going to find them in that kind of a venue.
Right.
Yeah. The big festival thing appeals to a certain kind of person, and I would say, I would say your stuff is more intimate than that. I just want to ask you about you're sort of leaning towards a social justice underpinning. Is that a fair comment?
I think that's fair. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. Thoughts and Prayers, that comes to mind, that song.
Yeah, that was a situation that, there was a stretch when I had some health problems before my record came out, and I couldn't walk. I was basically bedridden for a long stretch.
Wow.
And it was at that time that particular mass shooting, the Las Vegas massacre, happened, and it was, kind of, I was laying there in bed feeling so helpless, and then you open up your computer and you go try to join. You go onto social media to try to connect with people, and the amount of vitriol and hate that was involved with it. And what probably shocked me the most was people were more passionate, or the people that I saw, or the conversations that I saw, seemed more passionate and more disturbed at the notion that something should be done about, gun laws than they were about the fact that 58 people were gunned down at a concert.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of where all the arguments were, and that's where, everybody seemed to be reacting to that more passionately than they did about the dead people in the streets.
Yep. 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 They've got to turn their perspective a little differently, I guess. So you're coming to the basement in October the 12th.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that
Yeah.
one.
So
I've been wanting to play the Basement for many years, and it finally lined up.
yeah. So are you? Is that a solo show, JJ?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Yeah. No kidding, eh? It's a great venue.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I do the majority of my shows these days touring solo, but playing. And again, it kind of leads to my material and to my message and what I'm doing. It makes me portable, and it allows me to, get out further and take my show on the road, so to speak. So, the first time going into the Basement, I'm going to be doing it this way, and like I said, hopefully, win some people over, and then maybe come back with the band later down the road.
Yeah. Well, I think your music is going to do that, JJ. I think if people hear you, they're going to like it. Um, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to give you a chance to say whatever it is you want to say, anything without being prompted with a question. Any comments you'd like to make?
Oh, I don't know. I don't get to play around Saskatoon near enough. Years ago, I used to play around Saskatoon a lot more, but I've been kind of on a drought for a few years. So I really look forward to reconnecting with some of my old friends in Saskatoon, and hopefully making some new ones, and so I can come back more often.
Yeah. So listen, before I let you go, I want to ask you about Murray McLaughlin's Farmer Song,
Yeah,
and your experience working with Charlie Major and Darlene Tulata.
yeah, that was, like some things in life, the best things are accidents, and this was just kind of on a whim. I think it was 2018, might have been. Don't quote me on the year, but Darlene Tulata, who I've been longtime friends with, she called me up, and she said, harvest is underway out at my family's farm. She grew up in a similar circumstance to me, where she grew up on a farm, but didn't go on to make her living in agriculture. But she said, "Hey, what are you doing? Do you want to let's do something to support the farmers? My dad and my brother are out combining. The Quonset is empty, so I drove up to her farm, which is about 4.5 hours north of Regina, and I learned the farmer song in the car on the way, and we set up the cell phone, or it was Darlene's nephew stood up on a ladder with the cell phone, and we played through the song a few times, and we were in the empty Quonset where you get that big, beautiful, lush reverb.
Yeah.
And we thought it turned out all right. And we posted it on Labor Day weekend, saying, for no other reason than to say, hey, here's to a great harvest, and we hope that it's safe. And it struck a chord, and we had over 120 some thousand views within a week.
Oh, wow.
So, it was one of those things. And I mean, that's the testament to that song.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
song is just as relevant. We found it's just as relevant in the year 2018 as it was back in 1972 when it was released.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a no-brainer as I was getting ready to put my record together to include it as a bonus track. The theme didn't really fit the rest of the record, but it was kind of stupid not to include it. So that was the plan. And then in the meantime, Charlie had apparently seen our video on Facebook, and him and Darlene, they stay in regular contact. And Charlie said, well, hey, if you guys have any plans to record that, I would sing it with you. And so
What?
I never dreamt of anything like that ever happening. So it was basically like a bucket list thing that I never ever dreamt of. And it turned out, it worked out, and it got added to the album. And then we had another music video created for it, where we engaged our audience on social media to send in pictures of their dusty old farmer.
Yeah.
And it was pretty special because we had we had photos from the turn of the century, from the early 1900s, right up until 2020, and so it was pretty incredible the response that it got, and the fact that it struck a chord with people like today.
Yeah, very cool story. That's great. Well, listen, we've pretty much walked a mile.
Well, I'm not even tired.
Listen,
well, thanks a lot for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Hey, listen, it's my pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you on October the 12th at the Basement.
Yeah, we'll see you there. Bring out all your friends.
Will do.
All right.
I'm gonna stop tape now, but we can chat for a minute just afterwards, okay, JJ?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.